Welcome to today's episode of me reviewing highlights. It's turning out that on average, I'm able to do this only once a week right now, and I think that's fine. I'm not really too bothered about the fact that I can't do this daily. It's a busy time, and this time will pass. Maybe I'll get back to do this more frequently. Meanwhile, let's get started with today's highlights. So we'll start with the first one from Kill It With Fire. The occasional outage and problem with a system, particularly if it is resolved quickly and cleanly, can actually boost the user's trust and confidence. The technical term for this effect is the service recovery paradox. We discussed something related to this a while back, where we discussed that a system that occasionally breaks, not often, occasionally breaks, can actually lead to user trust rather than a system that never breaks. So this is the explanation that if you have a system that breaks, but you can fix it very quickly, efficiently, and very quickly without causing severe disruption, that actually increases users' trust. And it is, in a way, yeah, it doesn't make sense. That is why the name is called, this is called service recovery paradox. It is paradoxical that this actually increases users' trust, but that's how it works. That it's a service that occasionally fails, but reliably and quickly recovers. That's actually trusted more. Moving on. Wrong fit, right fit, and it's a long one. A compelling body of research around product decisions concludes that in the interest of closure, making a decision, a buyer will be more likely to limit the search for disconfirming information that will cause them not to buy. When the information provided initially is consistent. In other words, when the early signals we get about a product or a place are positive and hold true, we will likely stop our search for new information or comparisons to other options. This phenomenon is called motivated reasoning, or the tendency of buyers to move faster toward a decision when early signals help to form a clear sense of value for money. The author is really explaining that notion that when we want to buy something, when we saw something and we immediately liked it, we will justify to ourselves that, okay, no, this is a good thing. We want to buy it. It makes sense in buying this. It's a bias in a way, and the phenomenon called over here, it's called motivated reasoning. In this context, the author is referring to the notion that if you like a company too much, if you're considering applying to various companies, and if you like one too much, if you have some kind of attraction to it, like you had that great first impression, no amount of it, you will be able to justify everything negative you hear later on. That's what the author is justifying, that many companies, they have excellent marketing departments, so they are able to kind of grab you from the first interaction with them, but you don't know how what work would look like over there. I'm not saying that the marketing department is wrong, or they're misrepresenting the company, but this whole book is about fitment. It's not about right or wrong. It's not about it is about wrong and right fit, but it's not about a wrong company or a right company. It is about wrong company for you or the right company for you, right? So it's about finding a fit, and we force that fit if we like a company too much. That's what the author is referring to over here. Moving on, think again. A dose of complexity can disrupt overconfidence cycles and spur rethinking cycles. It gives us more humility about our knowledge and more doubts about our opinions, and it can make us curious enough to discover information we were lacking. I'm forgetting the examples over here, but the author is essentially saying that once we understand a complexity to any notion, for example, we have a strongly held belief about anything really, about I can't think of a good example, but we carry a lot of different strong beliefs, and sometimes we look at it from a very um, superficial we look at it at a very superficial level, but at a very charged level, because we very closely identify with the topic, not the not the decision itself, or not the problem itself, but the area of the problem. And once we understand the complexity, so somewhere in this book the author also mentions that rather than explaining why something will work or won't work, ask somebody how will that work. So that introduces complexity in a way, because now we have to think how you make something happen. And that brings in complexity, and that disrupts the overconfidence cycles, like the author says. And then it can lead us to ask questions, and bridge the knowledge, and fill in our gaps, so to speak. Let's move on to getting things done. Whereas the three lower levels have mostly to do with the current state of things, your actions, projects, and area of responsibility. From horizon three up, the factors of the future and your direction and intentions are primary. The author is talking about some six levels, like horizons 1 to 5, where where you align your goals, or your tasks, so that at the lowest level you have your actions and projects, and then area of responsibility, and you're going to deal with tasks at each of these levels. So this is lacking a lot of context. It's just something that I wanted to remind myself, so I'll move on. Kill it with fire. We assume the sun, moon, stars, and the board of directors will all magically reconfigure themselves around the right technical answer, simply because it's the right technical answer. I like that. We are horrified to discover that most people do not actually care how healthy a piece of technology is, as long as it performs the function they need it to, with a reasonable degree of accuracy in a time frame that doesn't exhaust their patience. In technology, good enough reigns supreme. It's a sobering reality, especially for us engineers, that there is this beauty in the system, this absolutely beautiful technical system that we can build, but nobody wants that. And we are horrified to discover that people do not actually care, like the author says. So it's our assumption that just because something is the right approach technically, people will care. But that's not how the world works. That's not how organizations work. The organizations exist for a reason. Your customers exist for a reason. They're looking out for themselves. And like the author says, if anything is good enough, that is what's going to sell. This is a very commonly cited effect in startups, for example. There was a quotation I heard somewhere that there are only two kinds of startups: one who are ashamed of their code, and second, who have failed. So, right, that's about it, I think. Codependent no more, and this is again a long one. Much of recovery is finding and maintaining balance in all areas of our lives. We need to watch the scale so they do not tip too far to either side as we measure our responsibilities to ourselves and to others. We need to balance our emotional needs with our physical, mental, and spiritual needs. We need to balance giving and receiving. We need to find the dividing line between letting go and doing our part. We need to find a balance between solving problems and learning to live with unsolved problems. Much of our anguish comes from having to live with the grief of unsolved problems and having things not go the way we hoped or expected. We need to find a balance between letting go of our expectations and remembering we are important, valuable people who deserve to lead decent lives. So it's a summary of some sort, summary of the book, I think, on the whole. But I don't really remember anything around this highlight. So I'll just leave it as it is. Moving on. The molecule of more. Paying attention to reality, to what you're actually doing in the moment, maximizes the flow of information into your brain. It maximizes dopamine's ability to make new plans, because to build models that will accurately predict the future, dopamine needs data, and data flows from the senses. That's dopamine and HNN working together. Over here, the author is explaining how the dopamine and the HNN systems, HNN again is here and now. This is the set of here and now chemicals like oxytocin and so on. How they work together to make us function as a human being. So, dopamine, while it's responsible for planning for the future, for giving you that control, or giving you the drive to go do something, the HNN is responsible for where does it say, the data flowing from the sensors, like living in the present, looking at right now, collecting the data, and that's how they work together. Of course, there is a lot more, and I think it's like basically the whole book to really understand this. Moving on. No self, no problem. The right brain has more and longer fibrous connections both within itself and also to the rest of the brain. This greater neural connectivity allows the right brain to make novel connections between diverse ideas, and because of this, it is often labeled as the creative side of the brain. This was something I just thought. I mean, of course, this person is a what's the word? Neurologist, I think. So I'll take him at his word. But yeah, I don't really know what to make of this right now. It's just something that I wanted to remind myself. Like, that's why I highlighted this. So it says that the author is comparing the left brain approaches, where vocabulary and basically language resides, and the right brain with the creative areas reside. And of course, by the way, the other books that I've read, like for example, 7.5 lessons about the brain, or even the molecule of more, they kind of explain that it's not as simple as that. Okay, oh, right brain is completely this and left brain is completely this. But of course, there are many experiments that kind of show what happens when the two halves are disconnected, for example, or when the connections are too strong, what happens. So there is some truth to it, apparently. But yeah, it is a very complicated area of study. So yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. I don't really know what to make of this more than what the author says over here. Lessons in chemistry. I just started reading this. Look, she said, life has never been fair, and yet you continue to operate as if it is. As if once you get a few wrongs straightened out, everything else will fall into place. They won't. You want my advice? And before she could say no, he added, don't work the system, outsmart it. So, because I've just read this, I can relate. I mean, I can remember. This is where Calvin, what is his last name? I forgot the last name, is talking to Elizabeth and telling her that, basically, life is never fair. So you can't. So Elizabeth was basically trying to work within the system and um, get what she was owed, basically a fair treatment, because she's owed fair treatment. She believes that strongly, but she's not getting it. Like the typical gender inequality we see everywhere. So she's not getting that, and so the other character Calvin, he's advising that don't work the system, outsmart it, basically trick it. And of course, Elizabeth is not. I mean, she realizes that she needs to do that, but I've just started reading it, so I don't know what happens further. Let's so I keep reading. The talent war. Beyond the money, talented people look for talented leaders and colleagues, a sense of community, challenge, opportunities for professional purpose, personal growth, and purpose. I guess nothing more to say here. Money, as we have discussed many times, is just like the basic hygiene factor. It's like the baseline that you need. But to keep the real talented people, to the skilled people, the talented people, that's actually going to make a lot of difference to your organization, you need everything else that's listed over here. So with that, I'm really, not bad. We are at 13 minutes today. And like I said, I don't know how often I'm going to do this. It's been a busy time. I think a couple of months are still going to be busy, but I'll try to at least maintain once a week on average. Let's see how successful I'm at that. And with that, you have a good day and take care. Bye.